My son once told me, Mom, we wouldn't have made it without you. That was a long time ago, back when his voice still carried warmth, back when I still believed that love was a kind of memory no one could erase. But I've learned something harder. Some children don't forget. They just rewrite the story without the woman who held the pen first. And so this is my story. Not a rage-filled revenge. No yelling. No slammed doors. No broken dishes. Just a quiet woman. A house she built with her own hands. And a lock that only turns one way now. It didn't start with the trip. Not with the sound of suitcase wheels squeaking down the hallway. Not even the family vacation photos I later scroll past in silence. No. For me, it started the day the lavender bush was cut down, without a word, without asking. I planted that bush after Harold died, my husband gone too soon from that steel mill accident. I remember digging into the dirt, trying to feel something that wasn't grief, that lavender. It wasn't just a plant. It was the first thing I cared for again after I lost the one person who saw me. And one morning, it was gone. When I asked Kevin, my son, he shrugged. Lisa thought it looked messy. He said, eyes still on his phone. We're redoing the front yard anyway. Gonna list it on Airbnb next summer. He didn't look at me. Just walked past talking about mulch and landscaping, like I was a neighbor who planted too close to the fence. That was the moment I knew something had shifted. Not in the house, not in them, in me. I used to believe that raising a child meant they'd always carry you with them, like the smell of old books or the sound of a lullaby. Kevin was my whole world. After Harold died, I worked overtime shifts at the hospital, missed birthdays, ate cold dinners in break rooms, bought shoes from Goodwill so he could have name brands. And I didn't mind, because that's what love looks like when you're a mother. When he got into college, I sold my wedding ring to pay for books. When he married Lisa, I offered them the house, not a rental, not pay what you can. I said move in, make this your home too, because that's what family does. They build from what came before. But looking back now, that was when I began to fade. It didn't happen all at once. I didn't just wake up one day and feel like a stranger in my own home. It happened in fragments, soft, quiet moments that chipped away at my presence like paint peeling off an old wall. Lisa started with the living room. One day I came home from the market and the sofa was moved, the curtains changed. My crochet pillows were gone. When I asked, she smiled and said, "Just freshening things up." Kevin nodded, not even looking up from his laptop. I laughed nervously and said nothing. But inside me, something small folded inward. Then came the kitchen. New pots and pans appeared, modern and cold. Mine were boxed up and pushed into the garage labeled extras. I saw Kevin stacking the boxes and asked, "Are we donating those?" He said, "Nah, just clearing clutter." "Lisa says your stuff's a bit outdated." Outdated. Like I was a version of something that didn't work anymore. Eli, my sweet grandson, was told not to bother Grandma too early in the morning. Lisa would whisper, "Let her rest," as if I hadn't been waking up at dawn for 40 years. One Sunday, I got up early to make muffins like always. Eli came into the kitchen and said, "Mom says I shouldn't bother you." He looked unsure, almost guilty. I smiled and handed him a spoon to help stir the batter. "You never bother me," I said. But part of me wondered if even that moment would soon be taken too. Over time, they stopped telling me when they'd be home, stopped asking what I wanted for dinner. At first, I told myself they were just busy. Young people, modern life, too many emails and apps and schedules. But then Kevin referred to it as our house. Not your house, not my mom's place, just our house. And then Lisa called it our place, and Kevin didn't correct her. Slowly, my name disappeared from the house I built with my bare hands. Still, I stayed. I swept the floors, cleaned the windows, stocked the fridge. I baked muffins with Eli on Sundays, folded laundry they left in the washer, sometimes still damp. I thought, if I just keep doing, they'll remember. They'll see me again. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just didn't want to vanish. One afternoon, I was upstairs folding towels when I heard Kevin's voice from the backyard. He was on the phone laughing. "It's just easier with her around," he said. "Free babysitting, free house. She's harmless." Harmless. The word echoed. Not kind, not generous, just harmless. Like a worn-out porch chair, too old to use but too awkward to throw away. I sat on the bed towels forgotten in my lap listening. My chest felt hollow. I didn't cry. Not then. I just began to hear silence differently. Not peaceful silence, but the kind that hums with what no one is willing to say. A week later, Lisa came to me with that practiced smile. "While we're gone on the trip, you'll have the house all to yourself," she said. "A little break for you." Kevin didn't even look up. He just tapped his phone screen, thumbs flying like the words didn't include me. That's when it hit me. This wasn't my home anymore. I was no longer the heartbeat of this place. I was the wallpaper there, but ignored. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I nodded and said, "Of course. Enjoy your trip." My voice didn't even tremble, but inside something quietly cracked. That night I went to the basement. I hadn't opened the old chest in years. Inside were Harold's cufflinks, Kevin's baby shoes, and at the very bottom, the deed. My name. Dorothy Elaine McAdams. Sole owner. Still mine. Still here. And yet, somehow I was the one being erased. They didn't say goodbye. That's the part I didn't expect to hurt, and yet it cut the deepest. Not the decision, not even the silence at dinner, but the way they left. Just like that. Like I wasn't part of the routine anymore. Like I had already been erased from the picture long before they packed their bags. That morning, I was pouring orange juice for myself. It was early sunlight, gently warming the kitchen tiles. The world felt quiet in a way I used to love. Then I heard Eli's voice. Soft. Nervous. "Grandma doesn't know, right?" I froze. Kevin's voice followed, calm and low, like final punctuation. "She's not coming. It's already decided." There was a pause. Then Lisa's voice clipped and sharp. "Don't bring it up again. We've been over this." I didn't move. My hand gripped the juice carton so tight my knuckles turned white. The juice overflowed in the glass and spilled onto the counter. I didn't even notice. They had talked about this, planned it, executed it, and no one told me. Later that evening, I tried to bring it up gently. I didn't want confrontation. I just wanted to be seen. So I asked over dinner, "When do you all head out?" Kevin didn't raise his eyes from his phone. Lisa responded with that polished tone she always used when delivering bad news, like a casual weather update. "Maybe this year it'll just be the four of us. Less stress. You know. Less stress." I was stressed, apparently. I nodded and smiled. I still don't know why I smiled. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was the years of swallowing disappointment and dressing it up as grace. After they went to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The house felt bigger, emptier. I looked at the family photo on the wall. It was from the beach trip last year, the one where I held the camera, and no one asked me to be in the shot. Kevin had his arm around Lisa. Eli held a sand bucket. All of them were smiling. I stared at that picture for a long time until the faces blurred. Not because I cried, but because the hurt was dry now, not raw but old. Familiar? Like a scab that never healed, just hardened. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed, eyes open, listening to them pack. Lisa barking instructions, Kevin shuffling through drawers, suitcases zipping, passports rustling. The noise of departure, but not for me. Around 5:00 a.m., I heard the wheels of the suitcase on the tile floor. I heard the door open, then close. Then silence. No goodbye, Mom. No, we'll call you. Not even a wave from Kevin. Eli waved from the back seat, but it was hesitant, half-hearted, like someone told him to. I waved back anyway. Then I closed the door, locked it, and stood in the silence they left behind. It didn't feel peaceful. It felt like dust settling after a storm that I didn't know had come until everything inside me had already collapsed. After the door clicked shut and their car disappeared down the street, I stood there staring at nothing. The silence that filled the house wasn't just quiet, it had weight. It pressed down on the walls, curled into the corners. I wasn't alone because they left. I was alone because I had already been left long ago. They just finally acted it out. I walked slowly through each room, not cleaning, not straightening things, just touching what was left. The hallway still smelled faintly of Lisa's perfume. The fridge was cluttered with fingerprints I didn't recognize. A crooked curtain rod Kevin never fixed stared back at me like a joke no one laughed at anymore. I stood in the middle of the living room, eyes sweeping the space I used to call mine. Now it felt like a showroom. Someone else decorated, where I was just allowed to pass through quietly. The couch, the rug, even the family photo wall, none of it looked like me anymore. I ran my hand along the banister, the same one Kevin used to slide down when he was 7. He once cracked his elbow on it and cried for hours. I stayed up all night, holding an ice pack to his arm, whispering lullabies to soothe the pain. That same banister now collected dust untouched. Forgotten. Like me. In the hallway closet, I found the old folder I hadn't looked at in years. Thick. Yellowed at the edges. Inside were the deed-old tax receipts. Maintenance records all bearing my name, my handwriting, my sacrifices. This house didn't just appear. It had a maker, a keeper, and it was me. But what shook me most wasn't that they forgot. It was that they knew, and still chose to ignore it. I didn't go looking for secrets. That morning the house was too still, too quiet. I wandered into the kitchen and saw Kevin's laptop still on the counter lid, half closed. I wasn't snooping. I just needed something to fill the silence. Something that wasn't mine yet, had lived in the middle of my home for years. I opened it. No password. He never imagined I'd have a reason. The screen lit up. Emails, dozens of them. I clicked the first one. Subject: power of attorney and title transfer. Discussion. My heart slowed. My hand, steady just seconds before, now trembled. I read line by line each word like a tiny betrayal, piling into a storm. We'd like to move the house title into Lisa's name before spring. My name, the name on every bill, every repair receipt, every tax document wasn't mentioned, not even once. Then more. Our long-term plan includes relocating out of state, but we need clarity on how to process the change since my mother technically still resides here. Technically, I read that word over and over, like I was a squatter. An unclaimed package on a doorstep. Then came the part that broke something in me. We've started speaking with 2 senior care facilities. The private one on Monroe has availability this summer. She hasn't agreed yet, but we're planning to transition gradually once legal matters are in place. They were preparing to remove me from my own home. Not violently, not cruelly, just logistically, like I was old furniture. Too big, Too fragile. Too much in the way. I closed the laptop slowly. My reflection flickered on the black screen. I barely recognized the woman staring back, tired eyes, drawn lips. A softness turned solid from years of being overlooked. I stood, walked straight to the linen closet. Behind a pile of old scarves, I found Lisa's folder. Plastic, purple, tucked under a gift bag labeled Spa Night. Inside real estate listings. Messages to a realtor. A timeline. April. Full title transfer. Note. Once in Lisa's name, move fast. Keep mom calm through summer. They weren't just forgetting me. They were rehearsing my exit. That night, I didn't sleep. Not from sadness, not from shock, but from something deeper. A stillness that came not from peace, but from clarity. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went to the laundry room. Behind the old mop bucket and broom handle was a locked metal cabinet Harold used to keep tools in. I still had the key. I hadn't touched it in years. The metal was cold, stiff, but it opened. Inside was a fireproof box. I opened it, placed the house deed inside, then the folder. All of it, the emails, the real estate plans, the notes. I taped the lid shut, slid it into the far back corner behind the paint cans where no one ever looked. I didn't know what I would do next, but I knew this. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to sit quietly while they planned my disappearance. They hadn't lost me. They had let me go slowly, efficiently, legally. But I was still here, and they forgot that. The next morning, I brewed a real coffee, the kind Lisa called too strong. I drank it from a chipped mug Kevin made in 5th grade, the handle still crooked. The house was silent, but it wasn't empty. It was mine again, even if only in feeling. I sat down at the dining table and began gathering every piece of paper I'd ever tucked away. Bank receipts, medical records, tax forms, maintenance bills, all with my name, all proof that I didn't just exist, I built this life. I carried it. By noon I had scanned them all. I uploaded everything to a digital folder, labeled it Dorothy Legal Ownership, backed it up to 2 cloud drives, emailed copies to my lawyer. Not out of revenge, but out of clarity. Let them try. Let them explain to their attorney why they assumed I'd vanish quietly. They would learn what I had always known. Women like me don't disappear. We simply choose when to speak. The house was still, but I wasn't anymore. The wind tapped gently against the window pane, as if asking permission to enter. I didn't move, just sat there holding the deed in my hands like it was an anchor I'd forgotten I needed. I read it aloud, my full name, my signature, each letter heavy with memory. I whispered I built this, not loud, just enough for the walls to remember. Then I stood, walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer Lisa used for coupons and menus. At the very bottom, beneath a pile of realtor flyers, was a glossy brochure. The tagline, "Where new beginnings feel like home." I almost laughed. There was no home waiting for me there, only walls without stories, windows without memory, and beds that knew no weight of grief or sacrifice. I picked up the phone. The number was printed on the bottom of one of the flyers. "McAdams residence," I said, voice clear. "May I speak to Shannon?" There was a pause. Then a polite voice. "Yes, this is Shannon. How can I help?" I took a breath. Steady. "Sure. I'd like to inform you that the property in question is not available for sale. It is not co-owned. It is not under review. It is mine legally, financially, historically." I paused, then added quietly but firmly, and emotionally too. The silence on the other end stretched. Then she stammered, I'm so sorry. We'll remove the listing immediately. I didn't shout. I didn't gloat. I simply said, good, and hung up the phone. That was the moment I felt taller than my reflection. I walked through the house again, this time not as a stranger. I ran my hand across the banister. It no longer felt like a relic. It felt like mine. I touched the walls I painted in '89, opened the linen closet still holding the quilt Kevin's grandmother had sewn. I opened the windows, let the air in, let the truth breathe. This wasn't just a house. It was a history. It didn't need to be defended anymore. It only needed to be remembered. Jenna, Shen Albion Senso, Omamdor Farnstorn, Jensen Generan Sitting Sense at Woton Jensener Store. The first thing I did was change the locks. Not because I was scared, but because I was finally done leaving the door open for people who never knocked. I went to the hardware store that morning. The young man behind the counter offered help, smiling kindly. I smiled back. Son, I said gently, I've been fixing things longer than you've been alive. He laughed, but I wasn't joking. By the time the sun began to fall behind the oak tree out front, the keys they once held no longer opened my door. I dropped the old locks into a brown paper bag, tied it closed, and threw it into the outside trash bin like someone setting down a burden. No drama, no fury. Just one small final turn of the key that whispered, "This is mine again." Then I began to clean. Not the way I used to, wiping fingerprints off windows, scrubbing stains no one else noticed. This was different. This was a reclaiming. I pulled down the wooden signs Lisa had nailed to the walls. Live, laugh, love. Good vibes only. I tossed them into a trash bag without a second glance. I rolled up the bath mat that always smelled like spilled wine she never cleaned. I opened the hallway closet and found the photo, the one they'd hung with me, squished to the far right, barely visible like an afterthought. I opened the frame, slid the photo out, folded it, gently, and replaced it with a picture from 1989. Kevin was 6, missing 2 front teeth. Harold tanned and laughing, and me right in the middle with a hand on each of their shoulders. That photo belonged there. It always had. I moved next to the guest room, what used to be my room until Lisa slowly turned it into her walk-in closet. Shelves of shoes, a full-length mirror, baskets labeled spa night and winter scarves. I opened drawers, folded everything, neatly packed it into boxes. One by one, I moved them to the garage. Not in a rush, not in anger, but like someone clearing out a storage unit they never agreed to rent. And with every drawer, I emptied the house, breathed easier. 3 days passed. The porch light flicked on that evening motion sensor. I was in the back room crocheting. Hadn't picked up yarn in years, but the rhythm helped. My hands worked. My heart listened. Then the sound of tires on gravel. Doors. Footsteps. A knock. I didn't move. Mom Kevin's voice came through the door, low, hesitant. "It's me. Something's wrong with the lock." I didn't respond. He knocked again. "Can we talk?" Then came Lisa's voice, sharp and patient. She changed the locks. "Are you kidding me?" I didn't flinch, didn't check the window. I let the silence speak for me. Another knock, a pause. Then I heard Kevin trying the side door, then the garage, the back gate. None worked. They weren't meant to. They stayed on the porch for 20 minutes. Eli and the kids grew restless. Lisa paced. Kevin kept trying his phone, probably calling mine. It lit up across the room. I didn't move. I didn't even look at it. Eventually the car doors shut again. Tires rolled back down the drive. And they left. No apology. No message. Just silence. But this time I wasn't the one being left behind. That night the house felt different. Not empty, not lonely, but full of choice of stillness I created. I walked past the couch and noticed something under the cushion, wedged deep, a phone. I picked it up. It was Eli's. A voice memo blinked on the screen. For Grandma. I hesitated, then tapped play. Hi, Grandma. Eli's voice came soft, shaky. I don't know if you'll hear this, but I wanted you to come, I asked. Mom said no. Dad didn't say anything. I miss you. You make me pancakes when Mom forgets. You come to my games. I don't get why you had to stay. Pause. Sniffle. I wish you were coming with us. Click. I sat there holding the phone like it weighed more than I could carry. That small voice. It cracked something in me I thought had long since turned to stone. I didn't call. Didn't text. Instead, I wrote a note. I heard your message. I love you. You didn't do anything wrong. I'll always be here when you need me. Love, Grandma. I taped it to the back of the phone, slipped it into an envelope, mailed it to the address they'd left on the voicemail. No name on the return label, just my handwriting. Steady, clear. A week passed. Then one afternoon, Kevin returned. Alone. No bags, no kids, no Lisa. He stood at the doorstep in an old sweatshirt, something faded in his hands. A photo album. The same one I thought was lost years ago. He said he found it in a plastic bin labeled Summer Decor. I looked through it, he said softly. I remembered things I forgot, and forgot things I should have remembered. He paused. I told Lisa I wasn't going through with the title change. She left, took the kids, said she was done. I said nothing. He looked down. I'm not here to stay. I know I don't get to. He held the album out to me like a peace offering. I just wanted to say, you weren't the problem, Mom. I was just too small to admit it. Still, I said nothing, but I took the album, and I nodded. A few weeks later, Eli came by with Kevin, just for the afternoon. He brought a hand-drawn card that read, Best Grandma Ever. We sat on the back porch, painted the old garden gnome Lisa once called tacky. Eli used too much blue. I didn't correct him. Kevin helped with the dishes, didn't talk much, but he moved gently, like someone trying to walk across a floor they used to stomp through. Before they left, Kevin paused in the kitchen. He looked up at the new sign I'd hung above the doorway. It read, This house remembers. He didn't ask what it meant. He didn't need to. That night I sat in Harold's old chair, a cup of tea, a candle flickering. The house didn't feel lonely anymore. It felt earned. Not quiet from abandonment, but quiet from peace.